Okay, thank you very much for joining me here on Anima-saurus today. I'm very privileged to be joined by Damian Pin. Damian, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Kimbo.
Look, I guess this is a chance for us just to shoot the pool table, since we're all in nice spacing and everything. Legally distanced from everybody.
Shoot the isolation breeze.
Yeah. Can you just start, just for everyone who's watching, just give us a bit of a brief about who Damian Pin is and how he got into animating.
Well, hi, I'm Damian. So I guess I'm not even sure if I've told you, Kimbo, about all the different steps that led me here. So, well, let's start at the end. I'm currently back in Brisbane working at Pony Up Picture Studios over in Rocklea, and I'm from Brisbane. But over the years, I've had to travel interstate a little bit. Unfortunately, I never got the chance to work overseas. But so originally, went to the Queensland College of Art to study animation in 1997.
97. What was the course that they had there for the College of Art? What was that?
So when we walked away with it, it was a BVA in animation, so Bachelor of Visual Arts in Animation. So it was
nice.
Yeah, it was a specific course, and I think at that time, and maybe sometime after, I think it was the only place in Australia still for a long time you could get an animation degree.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. Because I did a little bit of scouting on you, as well, and I saw that the first places some of the names which popped up. I know you worked at Oscar.
Wow, I did.
Yeah. When I came out in Brisbane, being a Brisbane animator as well, it was just like, the names that I wanted to get into was Oscar and Liquid, and then there was THQ and Chrome, and I'm like, oh man, you got to work at all of them.
I worked at all of those. Wow.
Yeah. So from Brisbane, you just kind of hopped up and down the coast of Australia. Is that?
Yeah, I think so. Originally, I was doing 2D animation at college, and halfway through our first year is when they created an animation computer lab, and so that was my first introduction to computer animation. We had Softimage. We had to do one class, but then I wasn't interested in that. I was still drawing.
Yep.
And then you mentioned Oscar, so people I went to college with were working at this place doing animation for the internet. They saw my short film. They knew me from college and recommended me for my first job out of college. So contacts straight away, super important.
Yeah, the people you work with straight off. It's like, yeah, we know them. Oh, cool. So we're from Brisbane, because I know Brisbane got hit pretty hard by the financial crisis. I was only just at the tail end of that, was when I came into the industry up here, and it's just like all the games companies kind of went poof.
It was crazy. Because I worked at THQ in Spring Hill for 4 years. But when it was in its prime, there were lots of studios in Brisbane. You could go and check out. Was Pandemic, Chrome, Creative Assembly.
Yeah.
Some other ones.
All around, they were all in Fortitude Valley as well. There was just all that hub.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
And some of the studios had really good content. So Chrome were doing Star Wars stuff. Pandemic were doing Destroy All Humans.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So, it was growing. But then, of course, once the Australian dollar crashed, then so did all the studios. Well, not all, but a hell of a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened then? You just kind of found yourself going. Well, I think you headed off to Melbourne first, didn't you?
Well, I was, after Oscar, I then started work at Liquid as a 2D animator. Then after that, I taught myself a little bit of 3D Studio Max. then got a job back at Liquid. Then from Liquid, because of that 3D animation, I had a folio, or a show reel to then go to THQ. So after THQ, I did go to Chrome for a little while. But the writing was on the wall, and so I quit. And plus, I just didn't gel. I didn't gel very well with a few of the people. I don't know why. Just these things happen.
Yep.
And then for a very short time, I went back to Liquid.
They always say it's a place that sucks you back in.
It does, man. It does. That was a number of years ago, but that was my last time. Like, consciously, I made that decision. You know, if I want to sort of progress, move on. And at that time, Animation Mentor was really popular.
Yep.
So I jumped on board, and essentially, by the end of that, created enough of a show reel that led me to then go to Sydney to work on the first Maya the Bee film. So that's how I got into film.
Right. Okay. Yep. Cool. Yeah, because Maya down in Sydney with Flying Bark. You know, Flying Bark were at that point still fairly young. They were still only growing when they really did Maya the Bee. You know, they've been kicking around. You know, they'd just done Blinky Bill, and Blinky Bill was up and
that's right.
Blinky Bill was fairly hard on them getting off into the next one. But yeah, Maya the Bee was their first real big launch international then.
Fantastic place to work. I had a blast working on that film. The animation director at that time, Simon, I then worked underneath him again when he was animation, I guess supervisor, you would call it, an animal on Peter Rabbit, which was great.
Oh, cool. Yep. Yeah.
More contacts.
Yeah. In Australia, the animation industry is pretty small, so
it's teeny tiny.
So yeah, for your time at Flying Bark, were you kind of considered senior then, or were you still getting?
I was just a mid-level. I'd had, I guess, enough experience to position myself as a mid.
Yep.
And because it was my first film, you know, that I think it was, you know, safer for them not to make me a senior.
Yep.
But made a lot of contacts from there. And one of the strengths that I found that I had was being able to work quickly.
Yeah.
So built up a good relationship with the animators and Simon and whatnot, so that when other projects and whatnot came on board, if I wasn't doing anything, you know, I would get an email or a message or whatever to try and help out.
Yep. And because I know this is one of those things which you're pretty kind of good at. You always still keep getting messages every now and then going, oh, this project's coming up. What are you up to?
Yeah. I think I certainly wouldn't want people to confuse sort of the 2 points that, yes, there are those amazing kick-ass animators who we all hope become our leads and supervisors and directors. You know, the 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 super talents that we all love. But I'm just the grunt worker that sometimes has really good shots. Sometimes they're not the best because I have to get them done. But I guess I make producers happy because I get stuff done ahead of time. So you've got to pick your battles.
Yeah. It's really quite interesting when you start talking with people. You know, people who are starting out or starting to get into it think they're always got to be perfect, and they've always got to, you know, make things perfect. When it's really quite a balancing act to go with. You know, you've got time on one hand, and you've got, you know, requirements on the other hand, and your expectations for the time it takes to get something good. It's just a balancing act.
Yeah, and who's surrounding you, and the style, the genre, all those sorts of things can influence, you know, your productivity, I guess, is a way of saying it.
Yeah.
That
Well,
sounds a little bit too formal.
hey, well, on that, so every place you've kind of worked at the moment, or every place you've sort of listed, has been sort of, I guess you'd say, characterized animation. Is that right? Like cartoony animation, or
I guess for the most part,
is that
I think,
intentional by you? Is that the sort of stuff you gravitate towards?
yeah, I think I like the stuff that is not super duper cartoony,
Oh, okay.
uh, but is just pulled back a little bit. For me, seeing super duper cartoony in CG is really hard, and it has to be done right. Whereas
Yeah.
2D is obviously a strength that it has, like each animation medium does. But I kind of like the idea that if you're having the medium, use it for what its strengths and weaknesses can afford
See.
you.
Yeah, I kind of like that as well, because stories in themselves lend themselves to sort of the way they help to be told. Like
Hmm.
some stories need to be told in 2D, just because they work so much better, or there's more of a feeling or a heart that goes with it when you've done it in 2D. Whereas some stuff can just be really nice in 3D, where it's just boom, there it is, and off it goes.
Yeah, that's right. And I think there's still a lot of exploration to be done in CG. So obviously it's already been done, but for a wider audience with the Lego film and then the
Yeah.
Spider-Verse, doing 3D on twos, but not just relying on that, using 2D elements to help
Yeah.
sort of almost create a new style. And so I think, hopefully a lot more studios do create a lot more unique looking films.
Yeah.
I hope so anyway.
Yeah, well, you hit on a really good point in that especially in the computer generated part of what we do, it's still quite a small an industry that's in its infancy, and defining where it wants to go. You pick on Spider-Verse, which was great because it pulled a lot of traditional elements of 2D and put them into 3D.
Mm.
But the other, that's one way to go. But the other way to go is sort of looking at what game engines are sort of doing with our
Mm.
industry as well, and what they can start producing too.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true. That's true. I think was it the Mandalorian, the new series, Star Wars series, where they would actually they had a projection like
oh yeah,
around as the set, as opposed to later generating the set onto a green screen. It's already there. I mean, that's really interesting.
yeah, and it just kind of goes to show that there's different applications for the technology that exists. Like we were touching on, remote work before. All of a sudden it's more likely being forced on a lot of people to go, look, well, you kind of
Yeah.
need that space. But really, for a lot of places, it hasn't been that much of a stretch to be able to implement that either.
No, that's true. I think I saw was there a story on Cartoon Brew about VFX artists creating a petition
Oh
about
yeah, the
wanting to be able
petition.
to work from home, and
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the big thing in the way really is the big studios, the NDAs, with Disney and that sort of stuff, and I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But if there's one industry with the technology that we use that can prevail, it's certainly ours.
Yeah, because that's what I've seen with like a lot of the guys I talk to, or a lot of my friends. They sort of just say, "Yeah, oh, we're just working from home." I'm like, "Oh, just like that? That's about it."
Yeah, it's too bad our NBN's not the best in the world.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
We'll leave that for another time.
yeah, yeah. And of course, after all this, now you've kind of ended up being, I guess, the technical term is senior animator, but you're more a lead than anything. We are now. You've taken control of a group and said, all right, this is where we're heading, and you're steering them to where you're going. So how's that?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that journey for you now, kind of taking on that role of, being quite a cornerstone to the studio you're in?
Those words are far too kind, Kimbo. I could ask you the same thing. I really enjoy it, certainly. I think, I guess, it seems, because I've been in the industry for a while, it seems like potentially a natural progression. Not that everyone suits all of those roles. I guess in our case, it's a little bit different because we don't have sort of animation teams. We just have our animators.
Yeah.
We have me. We have the layout, storyboard, and the director. So in a way, there's less chefs to ruin the message, but it can be a lot of responsibility. Well, it should be a lot of responsibility, and it is, and it's fun. I think maybe what prepared me a little bit was doing a bit of lecturing at QCA years ago, sort of, I guess, you don't know what you know until sort of people start asking you specific questions. It's very difficult to just say, if someone gave you a piece of paper and said, right, Kim, I want you to write down everything you know about layout, like, you would miss out on so much stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it takes time to communicate everything that you sort of know as well. It's just not like something you can just go, blah. It's like, well, in this situation, you can take it this way, but sometimes you need to go over this way. And it just takes time to massage through all the information you've backlogged over. Well, what is it then, about 16 years?
Oh, yeah, more or less. So when I left the first job I had in 1999, before I graduated, I still did graduate, but I'd started at Oscar as an in-between artist.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I guess we could say 20 years if you like.
20, yeah, nice round 20 years.
I've got a lot of grey hairs to prove it.
Yeah. Well, look, what's overall that, you've got a 20-year breadth of, history, I guess you'd say. What has been the favorite project that you've got to work on? Now, it doesn't have to be the one that's got the most limelight, or just the one you think, whether it was just the team you worked with or the outcome that it came out with. What's been the favorite project you've got to work on?
So straight off the bat, I think most of the teams that I've worked with have been unreal. Like, I don't, it's rare that, you work with a group of animators that you don't like, and that's always the fun stuff. So in a sense, the project doesn't matter that much as long as that core team are really cool people.
Yeah.
But having said that, look, and it's not like I've worked on, a ridiculous amount of high profile things or anything, or at all, in fact. But I guess the style and the people I was working with, and it was my first time doing a film, was probably at Flying Bark, working on the first My the Bee film.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I like Flying Bark are a great group to work with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you come back to Brisbane. Now, for me as well, we're both in Brisbane. We've landed in Brisbane. You, it's your hometown. Me, it's kind of my second adopted town. This is a point now, like, we both saw what happened in the global financial crisis where games industry vanished out of Brisbane. I think that also had the impact of the change in government, also pulled a lot of the stimulus package out of anything coming into it. But we're in a similar situation again, where there's a bit of a budgeting industry happening here. There's quite a lot of stuff sort of happening around in Brisbane. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen, or what would you like to happen over, say, the next year or so? To see, do you think Brisbane's still going to keep forging its way ahead?
I think it will, but I guess we probably have to answer it as a pre and post coronavirus answer.
Yeah.
So let's say pre coronavirus, I think Brisbane is heading on a really great trajectory. I mean, we have Bluey
Yeah, Bluey.
and Joe Brum, and they've just won an Emmy, which is an amazing achievement. I mean,
Achievement. Yeah.
holy cow.
Yep.
And I think the government, with certain incentives are starting to
Yep.
pick up on how much money. I mean, I don't know. It shouldn't be a mystery how much money entertainment, films, games generate.
Can generate. Yeah.
So I think definitely going on the up. Now, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I assume if we can all get our remote work stuff sorted out, that we can still pump out great work and generate good content at a good price.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's super duper duper talented people here. I think it's the same old issue of how do we retain them. So it's the double-edged sword type thing,
Yeah, because I think for me, looking at the situation this time, there's a couple of key points which have changed since the last crisis, which Australia went through. Anyway, this time there is a lot of government support for the creative industry, which they didn't have last time because they'd only just changed the government and pulled a lot of funding out.
Yeah.
So I think this time we do have a lot of financial support for the producers offset, which is big for 4 states. 4 states, Adelaide, New South Wales and Queensland all got the 33% production offset, which is huge, which is going to, like you say, pre-corona, everything was sort of starting to move anyway.
Yeah.
And I think even after that, the Australian dollar has dropped so much that it's going to be a great place to produce stuff because it's going to be cheap.
Yeah, I think so. And as you said, that's why it was an attractive place before the global financial crisis in Brisbane. It was a little bit of a mecca for video game companies. And I think it was because, obviously a lot of the companies we were working were American. That, we understood the humor, what they wanted. It was very easy to understand. We all grew up. We understand all the tropes and the memes and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I imagine. Look, it's like this, obviously, and it'll spike up again. I think it's just a matter of retaining that talent if we can.
Yeah. Yeah, the talent's a big one because a lot of it does from Australia. A lot of it goes overseas, and we've always got to import a lot of people. Even in our little studio that we work in, there's
I mean, and that's right. And you never know where sort of the next destination for, I guess, state or province governments are going to, help prop up the industry. Obviously, for many a year now, heaps of people have gone to Vancouver, and now lots of people going to Montreal. I think maybe does London have some sort of...
London's definitely, from what I tell, London's very much VFX, big film VFX attraction. So, and they've definitely got quite a big TV animation sort of attraction as well. Yeah. So, I mean, that was going to be my next discussion point for you is, with the changing landscape, especially of online and streaming, do you think there's going to be a change in the sort of content that's going to be wanting to be created? Because I look at like TV and things like BoJack Horseman, which have had a great uptake, and a lot of people have watched them. Do you think that that's going to be exploited and there's going to be a lot more of that sort of stuff to be created?
Well, I mean, animation does take a long time to do, so you wouldn't want to rely on the coronavirus to prop up your studio. I guess I don't know. I mean, I guess that's a bit facetious, but.
And you've got a background in 2D as well, so you probably understand better than what I do how something like BoJack gets produced, because that's all 2D. So
well, I mean, I guess am old enough that I was working in traditional 2D, so lightbox, pencil, and paper. And I have to tell you, one of the Jody, one of the junior animators, made a very, very funny remark to me when I said that I used to work with a light box and just a tape deck, and she said, "Is that because computers hadn't been invented yet?" So props to Jodie. That was hilarious when she said that.
Well,
Oh,
there
sorry.
you go.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about the production time between what you think 2D and compared to what 3D is getting produced at now.
Yeah, look, I couldn't give you sort of a super duper accurate answer because I guess a lot of studios now, for a long time, have been using Toon Boom and Cell Action, I guess. I think is Cell Action.
Yeah, Cell Action seems to be like that's
the big one.
That's a big one that gets used quite a lot as well, especially for early education animation.
So I have not used those. I understand how they work. I kind of think that a 3D animator who's not versed in drawing could still perform quite well because they have, well, their own version of rigs and libraries of expression. So they're not creating each drawing every 2 frames or whatever. That way you can even do it on ones because it's, a rig in that software.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, because I love 2D. I got a real soft spot for 2D because I grew up on Warner Brothers cartoons.
Me too. It was the 2 things that got me in were watching Roadrunner with my dad, and we would also love to watch all the old Sinbad movies with all the stop motion animation from Harryhausen. So anything to do with Jason and the Argonauts, any of that Medusa from Clash of the Titans, and then I was like, reading fantasy books. I was a role-playing nerd. I'm still a role-playing nerd. Comics and everything. So my career was going to head somewhere in that path, somewhere in that direction.
It's in that direction. Oh, wow. Okay.
And I got to meet Ray Harryhausen, which was awesome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. When we used to have animation festivals in Brisbane, he came and he bought a reproduction of one of his maquettes from Clash of the Titans.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Went out and had dinner and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. It's great. I mean, that's another thing with it being such a small industry. As soon as you do get a festival or something, you do get to meet some really cool people who you can kind of go, wow, well, I kind of love your work.
Yeah. Well, look, and I guess, advice for people too is, keep working in the background, because after I'd finished up all my 2D work, and I was learning computer animation, I was working in a completely different industry and went to a festival, spoke to someone who I knew, told them what I was doing, and said, hey, send me the latest 3D stuff that you're doing. And that's how I got back into animating. Yeah. Well, not back into it, but back in as a computer animator.
Yep. Yeah. It's strange. Similar sort of thing. For me, I was doing my own stuff for a long time, just kind of coming home and just making stuff happen. It's just like, oh, cool. I can't get into the industry without actually working and crafting and getting better at what I'm doing. So the personal work's a big one. So
it is, yeah. A lot of the personal work that I did, no one has ever seen, no one will ever see it. But it was all just, like a guitarist would practice scales. It was just practice. And there's sort of that and one other thing are the 2 main things I would say to students is do lots and show lots of people.
Oh, yeah.
That way you're doing a lot, so you're learning by doing, but you're also getting feedback, and learning how to make changes and make your work better, but you're also learning how to take criticism.
Yeah, and another thing, especially for when you're starting off, is to not take that criticism personally, because a lot of the time you're putting your heart and soul in what you're actually doing, and to have someone tell you that there's a way you could do it better. It's just can be heart crushing. But if you just kind of take it with a grain of salt and go, well, I am learning, I'm getting better. So
that's right. I mean, if the person who gives you the critique is right, then and they're not being, you know, a poo bum about it. Then...
Yeah, they're not being a dick. Yeah.
Oh, you potty mouth.
Well, all right. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and having a bit of a chat. Make sure that you kind of hit the like button down below. Let Damian know if he's got any questions. You can find him. Where would you like anyone to go find you if they have a question?
Wow. Well, I imagine that if they want to get through to me, they could probably go through you.
Yep. That's right.
I don't have any. Apart from a LinkedIn, I don't really have any social media type scenario. So.
Yep. Yeah, that's fine. I'll if anyone wants questions with me, just hit me up and I'll pass them on to Damian. That would be great. All right.
Awesome.
So thank you very much. Until we kind of see everyone again on our next talk. Thanks for joining us.
Woohoo!